So the question is, am I ready to be a new church planner? Do I have what it takes? Is God calling me to this ministry of starting a new faith community? Starting a new congregation is incredibly hard work. It's just time-consuming, foot-pounding, time away from family stuff. And it's important that you understand that God's calling you to the ministry. If God's not calling you to be a new church planner, don't even do this thing. In my first year of starting a new congregation, I faced some really difficult hardships. Issues of identity. We struggled to figure out who God was calling us to be as a church. And in the midst of that, we had a vision for what God wanted us to do, and we ran across vision hijackers, people who tried to take us away from that vision. We had pastors who were envious of me. They thought that perhaps they should have been the church planner, not me. We had other pastors who didn't understand why we needed a new congregation, and they thought that we would be a threat to them. And so you had to deal with issues like that. Time away from family, it was pretty huge. You're spending a lot of time at work and in building relationships with other people. We also discovered a leadership vacuum, that we had people that came from other churches. In the midst of coming from other churches, they came with a vision for what they thought could happen, and they tried to exert their leadership. What I'm saying is that in the midst of all of that hardship, if you don't know that God is calling you to this, it can be really hard, because one of the only things that can get you through is knowing that God has called you to this ministry. So how do you know if God's calling you to be a new church planner? I would say first, you need to be spiritually centered. You need to have a holy ache. You need to have a sense that you're not going to be whole unless you do this. You have a huge burden for reaching unchurched people. It's about spending time in prayer and asking God if this is what God wants you to do. It's about listening to God in prayer. It's about talking to other people and asking others, do you really think that I have what it takes to be a new church planner? Do you think that I can do this? Have you witnessed fruit in certain areas of my life that would say I can be a new church planner? I think it's important to attend new church events, talk to new church pastors, figure out what it was like for them. Attend things such as the Church Leadership Institute, where you can learn more about what it means to be a new church planner and about how to grow a church. You can also take an online assessment that helps you discern if God is calling you by going to path1.org. If God is calling you to this ministry, you will know for sure. There needs to be an undeniable sense that this is what God wants me to do. A sense that if you were to do something else, you would not feel whole. God laid this on your heart, and this is what you're going to do. Along with that call will come a strong gift of faith. You will know that no matter what hardships, what difficulties, what burdens, what pressures you face, that you don't face them alone, that God is going to be with you to see you through, to be that hand upon your shoulder that gives you the comfort that you need. And you also know that your spouse is there beside you. If you're married or have a partner, you need to know that your partner is going to be with you through that. If your partner says, I'm not willing to do this, then I'd say God's not calling you to this ministry at this time. Perhaps a later time, but not now. So it's important to understand your call. And I would encourage you to spend time in prayer and discernment to make sure that God is calling you to this important ministry before moving further in this process.